Well, welcome to the Burn Up Podcast. It's an honor today, a treat. I've got a new friend that I feel like we're building a very deep relationship with. That we first got introduced together a couple years ago when I went to California to get a Sakyant tattoo. For those that are watching, it's this beautiful tattoo that's on my arm, and we're going to talk about what a Sakyant tattoo is. And my good friend Svietliy is with me today, and I want to just, kind of as an intro as we get into this, I started following you on social media several years ago, and was just kind of drawn to the ceremonial aspect of it, not just the incredible work you have as you do as a tattoo artist, but it was the ceremony. It was what, went into this. And I, last year came out of a very difficult season and losing my company, going through a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. And as I started to dig in and study Sakyant tattoos and what they are, and so much about this is really about what you want to call into your life. Right. So what do I want to have? And so I went through this really, this where literally every aspect of my life in many ways burned to the ground. So I have this blank canvas and it's like, okay, who am I? What do I want to do? And I'll share later about the experience, but it was such a beautiful ceremonial thing. Many of you know, I'm a huge advocate for, when you feel called to it, for plant medicine and ceremonials. And there's just, in many ways, this was a very spiritual experience as I spent that first time last year, a full day with you. And then here just over a month ago, spending another day and doing some more. And it's just the way you do things, the experience that you create is truly magical. It is very a spiritual experience. So Svietliy, it's an honor to have you with me today, visiting here in the great state of Utah. And we saw each other last night. And we're like, hey, let's do this podcast. And you're like, let's go. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate you, and I'm honored to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much for this beautiful feedback and sharing the space. The phoenix is rising, right? Intentional living and ceremonial living is a big and important choice that we make in our life, right? Just like what you've shared with me before about the discipline and decision that you make, right? This is the ceremonial approach to the life, When you create order, when you move mindfully, when you speak mindfully.
Yeah, and you embody that. It's much of what you do in your work is really, I would say, channeled. And your spiritual connection with the divine and being able to tap into that energy, of which all of us have access to.
Yes,
right?
True.
And as I've learned on my own spiritual journey and as my own connection with that, so much of that really is in how we live our life. In every aspect, how do we feed ourselves, both from visually, what we listen to, and who's in our life. I mean, and I've found that the more and more I continue to refine each of those aspects of my life, the continuity, that connection with our divine, with our creator, strengthens. It's intensified, it's enhanced. And, we all know people in our life that are quote unquote spiritual or have connection. That experience when I sat down with you was really beautiful, eye-dropping, and I knew immediately, like, okay, this is a man that's connected. And one of the things and you are very intentional about getting into that space to do that. And it's the way you live and it's the way you move through the world. And I just want to say, as we get into this, like, and I'm going to talk about that, like, what do you do in life really to embody that? What levels of discipline or decisions have you made or had to make in order to actually step into that and to be in that divine connection? Because again, it's available for everybody, but most people don't choose. Most people don't have the discipline.
Yes.
And I would argue that most people don't even realize what's possible.
Beautiful. This is everything that you say is beautiful and it's precise. First of all, I want to emphasize yet again that it's a choice that we all make. However, in order to be able to make these choices day after day, moment after moment, quite frankly, every moment of our life, if possible, is to be aware. Awareness, mindfulness. This is a big key, just like it is for the discipline. You can be disciplined all you want, but if you don't have awareness of yourself or your intention, then you will never be able to get anywhere without awareness, right? So of course, different practices that help you develop mindfulness, that help you to awaken, is it's a crucial foundation to live an intentional life, a ceremonial life, basically, right? So I've had a lot of different experiences in my life, a lot of different experiences that have led me to where I am today. A lot of experiences, challenging, traumatic, and all beautiful overall, anyways.
And I'd love to talk about it because I think your story is fascinating. You were kind enough to share a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but an overview, if you will, of some of the things. Here you are doing Sakyant tattoos.
I felt safe.
Yeah.
I want to say I felt safe to share that with you, my brother.
Well, thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pardon me.
No, that's great. But here we are, Sakyant. But you are originally from Russia.
Correct. I was born and raised in Russia.
So let's go there. I mean, how does a guy that's raised in Russia, right, all of a sudden, you were in the military in Russia and found yourself in different countries and all of a sudden you're training under. I don't even want you speaking. I don't want to even say.
Let me bring this in. Let's call it this way. My journey is a spiritual journey from the beginning as I look back into it and in retrospect. Being born and raised with torn apart country, with no culture, with absolute taboo for spirituality of any sort, which is, that was created by, the Soviet prohibitions. And, we've had all sorts of times. We've had hunger, we've had starvation, quite frankly, and big challenges in the family institute of the whole entire, as a country, and individuals like me, for example, right? So interesting enough that this whole scary experience of upbringing, when I was wandering the streets of the megapolis by myself at 7 years old, smoking cigarettes, communicating and interacting with absolutely strangest individuals somehow, it gave me the fruitful soil to not be so conditioned as most of the people, right? I believe that human beings are coming into this world as enlightened beings, pure, free from the sufferings. And then we are being conditioned to then later in life try and decondition ourselves to find the enlightenment. I was blessed to not be all that much conditioned. How people here, like I'm experiencing Utah right now, it's a beautiful state. I love people over here, but I see there's a lot of influence and condition of church, of religion, of the government, family institutes, and such and such and such and such, which is amazing. I would love to have that for myself, but my upbringing was different. So I was not conditioned. I have experience of becoming a professional athlete in my teenage year, and which I was actually one of the big things that I recollect right now here in Utah, that I went back to skiing, right? I went in the military, not because I am a military guy, absolutely not. I went for the sake of a challenge. I remember the moment of me, 18 years old, feeling that as a professional athlete, I'm getting so much attention from all around. I have magazines talking about me, premieres in the cinemas of my movies and such. And I, in Russia, I felt uncomfortable with myself. I didn't like the person I am becoming. And so
at that time, were you tying a lot of your worth to the magazines, the the attention, and it was almost in many ways kind of fueling your ego, if you will.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The ego. And I've started noticing myself that I'm being arrogant. I'm being arrogant. Imagine me. You know me.
Oh yeah.
And I am finding myself being arrogant. This fame is hitting my, I'm like, who are you? I'm not gonna talk to you. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no. And so opportunity came up. The one yet again that people are frightened, that people not gonna say yes to, which I said, well, I'm gonna go. And I went to the military, and I joined the military when I was 18 years old, which is surprisingly enough, I can say that this was a pivotal moment in my spiritual journey when I exactly tapped into the spirituality and tapped in. Well, I can break that military period of my life in two sections, clear two sections. One is when I was a soldier, doing all that what soldiers do. At some point, I started asking questions of people around me if anybody knows anything about guardian angels or something like this. Why? Because I felt and I seen that I am protected by some kind of energy or something that I don't understand and I don't know of, because I see that people are falling and I'm standing. And when I started asking,
when you say people were falling, were you in battles where you saw people that were killed?
I saw death a lot. I've experienced it a lot, and I faced it a lot. And it's part of experience. I believe that right now I can say that death is one of the greatest teachers of life. We need to understand death and love in order to understand life, anyways, or at least get closer to understanding life and its purpose and meaning and value. So this is the first part. And when I started asking these questions, right now I can retrospect that I started seeking some truth, some wisdom, some light. And my how do you call them, like a commandment of our military base, they saw that and they decided that I'm expired as a soldier, and they were kind enough to actually redirect and transmute my energy, my adrenaline desire, and my lack of fear maybe, or desire to face the fear, and redirect it to become a firefighter. So I became a firefighter, and then this is the most expansive experience that I've had, frankly, in my entire life. I had an opportunity to save people's lives from fire, risking my own. I do believe, and as a Dharma teachings, that generosity is exactly the most heart-opening virtue that one can experience. And there is no higher generosity than offering your own life for the sake of others, right? I was blessed enough to not live my life there. I was blessed to not die there in these moments. And but I have had experienced this, the most generosity that human being can experience. And this is where my spiritual journey truly begins. We believe that with opening heart, with developing anahata, this is where the spiritual journey begins. And this is where it started. I started reading and learning about different spiritual traditions, religions, cultures.
What religion were you raised in? Did you have a religion?
There, like I said, in Soviet, when I was born, every religion and every spiritual practice, including even martial arts, it was prohibited and how to say, illegal, right? Illegal. And and so when I was growing up, there was no religion or whatsoever. Later, it started like coming back Orthodox Christianity in Russia, which is, let's be honest, I can say that to the most part, it is nothing but a government institute that has been reinvented for those who need it, which is, back in the day, and especially, I don't know what it is right now, with advocating for wars and all these things, I hardly can call this as actually something that has to do with spirituality, but just one of other levers to control the population. So anyways, no, this is exactly what I'm saying, my brother. I have been blessed to be raised without religion, without conditioning of this sorts, and my seeking of wisdom and truth began from my experience of heart opening, not me reading about it per se or hearing about it, but I just had my heart break open, and this was so natural to start seeking and learning and reading, right? So military service was over. I've had tried different routes in my life in the beginning, yet in material world, I was doing the corporate career for some time, which I was pretty successful in a common way, right? I was doing the progress, I was growing, I was climbing the corporate ladder and making money, and however, I felt that I am not fulfilling the purpose, the greater purpose that is there for me. And like I said, I've started, I was on a journey of seeking. I was practicing yoga back in the day, very deeply, and very consistently. And when you do that, what happens? You start developing mindfulness. You start developing awareness of yourself, of your body, of the food that you eat, how you feel, everything, of your thoughts. Another really groundbreaking moment for me was when I was doing that yoga, and I was, I'm very, as an athlete, professional athlete, I'm doing it, and I'm going to the studio every day, and I'm better than everybody there, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And then my teacher, my brother, my guru, his name is Sergey Karapetyan. I want to bring his name here too. He is a Kundalini yoga master, and he said, I see how amazing you are. I said, how great you are. You're better than everybody here in the class. I'm like, yeah, thank you so much. I'm being recognized. And he said, but we're absolutely not here for that. And I'm like, what? He's like, we're not here for that. I'm like, what are we here for? He said, you think you are here to be better than somebody else? I'm like, well, no, maybe I'm here to be better than myself yesterday. And he says, oh no. We only are here for you to be able to close your mind, close your eyes, and see nothing but clear mind, darkness, and safety and peace. And I'm saying, hold on a second, that sounds strange for me because I constantly am in conversation with myself, right? So I close my eyes. He said, try it. I'm closing my eyes. And this feeling like, how in cartoon the beehive is falling on somebody's head and there's like, this kind of thing. This is how I feel. They're stinging me. The thoughts are just unbearable. I cannot even hold my eyes closed normally because they're shaking. And I'm just want to get out of there. And he said, you see how you feel? this is where you need to go, and this is what you are addressing
That's the
with
power of
practice
yoga.
of
I mean,
yoga.
I'm a big yogi, and
Right.
it's the quiet. It gets you out of your head and into your heart, into your body.
Exactly.
It's one of the most beautiful practices for that.
Exactly, exactly. And so what is it then that is exactly the ability to quiet everything, to clear your mind and be able finally to be present, to be aware of where you are, how you move, how you speak, what you choose, what you know, what you don't choose for yourself or for others. And this is like a very significant part of my spiritual journey too. I mean, yet again, there were moments, challenging moments in my life. I've lost my father right basically after I got back from the military, which I just reunited with him in my late teenage years. And I lost him when I went to the military, come back, and then I lost him. And this was yet another very harsh, very burning everything to the ground experience to reinvent myself as a better human. Because even though I was doing the practices, the physical practices, the spiritual practices, the mental practices, I still have maybe wasn't there yet, And as my father passed away, I realized, maybe it sounds silly, but oh my God, life is so short. I have so little time. And this quote from one Russian classic, Mikhail Bulgakov, is very present in my life. It says, life, it says, yes, the humans are mortal, but that would be only half the trouble. The trick is that often humans are immediately and unexpectedly mortal. And that struck me, understanding that, oh boy, well, I don't have no time to waste. I need to go and do something and get somewhere with my spirituality and live my life as a happy being from the place of love, be where I feel I am happy. I, of course, as it is common for a lot of people, started to seeking for that externally. Well, truth is, this is where I left Russia in these moments. I of course started to searching for that peace and happiness externally, but the places I went to on my sojourn, which lasted almost 10 years, I found places that were fruitful for my spiritual journey. I've met many great masters of my teachers, my masters, that are very particularly my teachers and my masters, my root teachers, right? Like my Guruji, Acharya Yogesh, the master who have taught me in India meditation and yoga and transcendental meditations and chakra healing and the concepts of Ayurveda and the energy meridians and such and so forth. I've spent a lot of time there, and I've learned a lot. Ibu Robin Lim is the BBC Hero of the Year, who is a woman. It's great, absolutely woman. By the way, she has a foundation, Bhumi Sihat Foundation, that provide the place for medical services, and first and foremost provide the space for the birthing center for people in Indonesia and Philippines where there's lacking of it's a magical, absolutely woman who have inspired and showed me so much what is unconditional love, which is a very important also step in a spiritual journey. And this is the one who helped me to bring into the world my son. And when my son was born, this is where I've experienced unconditional love. And I thought that I know everything about it. I read so much. I spoke so much about unconditional love, but it's only when I delivered, when I got received my son in my hands from his mother's womb, I I felt it. I finally fundamentally understood what unconditional love is. And other teachers that I had, to get to the point when in Thailand, it was before, I'm sorry, I'm just timing wise, before Ibu Robin Lim, and it's quite interesting that I felt like I will leave it for the end, but timeline wise, it's not correct. In Thailand, I met my great friend and great teacher in many ways, Ajahn Ord, who is he's like me. He's not ordained. He's a lay practitioner, but he is also holding an offer in Sakyan ceremonies in Thailand. Maybe he's in Borneo now. And he was the one who introduced me to my great teacher, my great master, Venerable Monk Toy, or Prajan Toy.
And if I remember right, the story was you. I mean, I'd love to talk about how you even got, because were you at one point where you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were tattooing at, I think you were at a hotel, or you were doing something at a hotel, and then you got called over to the.
Yeah. Let me tell you the story. It's so throughout this whole journey of mine, everywhere I've been, okay, you know what? Let me get back a little bit to the very important part of it. So throughout my study, because I think I'm talking a little bit about myself, my journey, but let me tell you what I've learned that started leading me to this. From studying spiritual traditions, from studying rituals, from studying cultures and religions, I found out that, well, frankly, it's all quite the same thing. And people are doing the same thing. People are trying, there are rituals of different sorts that help people to get in a state of the meditative concentration. And it could be anything. Some people dance, some people drum, some people just pray on their knees quietly, some people meditate, some people chant, some people do the sacrifice rituals. Anything that they do, it gets them to the state of quiet consciousness and connection to some kind of source, and that state they use in order to either request of something in their prayers per se, or just connect and be in it, or share gratitude for some things, right? Which is beautiful, but it is common for everybody practically. And then what else did I found is that most of them are using symbols to create that associative connection. There are ancient words in Sanskrit, for example, in Tibetan Sanskrit, and it's actually Tibetan. It's a concept from Tibetan shamanic bone. The word is tulpa, and tulpa is that fourth form of collective mind that we are being able to tap into if we use symbols. Symbols, there are many different symbols. There are geometrical symbols, there are katas, there are figures like deities of different sorts, right, that represent particular energies. But it is important that it's not the form and shape of the symbol that give its power, but it is you and I and everybody else who have utilized that symbol with a similar sacred intention, creating that tulpa, right? And so founding that, I also found that there's ancient practice of tattooing that that is the most powerful way to manifest the intentions. Just work with symbols open you to the synergy of intentions of many, many different people throughout time and space. But then the the fact that you can put it under your skin, opening your sacred body to it, to that symbol, and keep it permanent on yourself, it definitely multiply the energy, the connection of you to that symbol, right? It's like a permanent prayer and connection to that synergy, fourth form of collective mind, right? So when I left from Russia, I started trying in Russia. Machine tattooing, I never tried that. I never tried the bzzz, the gun. For me, this is not the source of energy for the ink to go into the skin, right? The batteries and such, it's not. So I started trying to just using the needle and poking the symbols on the skin. I went out to Europe, where I was again blessed. When I left Russia, I went to Latvia, which is very connected culture there. Amazing people. They're so connected to nature. It's my Western Slavic tribes. They are the amount of attention and connection to symbols that they have is almost like nowhere else. Even the Zimis. I'm just so grateful for all of you, and likely some of my friends who I've met there will be watching that, and I just want you to know I love you, and I'm so grateful that some of you, the masters and shamans of this tribes, opened this wisdom and this knowledge and this for me to offer them in exchange their own symbols on their skin, right? This is where I truly was able to understand what it means that some symbols are powerful and some are not. Because some symbols are truly being held by that tribes, by the people, right? It's not, you can just scribble something, people like the sigil and somebody did, and it will be a great transformative experience in your life. It is if there are millions of people are praying and holding that symbol, creating that energy. In esoteric tradition of Europe, that would be called egregor. You heard that word, egregor, yeah. Right? This is basically a similar concept to tulpa. And so I was doing that. I was doing all that I was doing since I left Russia. I was offering the tattoo practice and yoga practice. I was teaching yoga and I was offering the sacred tattoos symbolism, right? It was a very a very primordial for me stage where there was not much of a ceremony because I didn't know, and I was just very much focused on solely on the symbol, trying to hear a person, listen, open up, and channel to work with the symbols, right? But so I was doing this constantly throughout the whole entire sojourn until I got to Thailand, where the hotel is not a hotel. As a matter of fact, I found the abandoned resort over there, and I thought I need something to provide here more because, yet again, I'm in a new place and I need matters of life. And I found an abandoned resort, and I found the owners of it. As a matter of fact, it's some Italian people in California who bought it years ago and abandoned it and left back to California in no time to do that business. I found them and I had a agreement that I will restore that place. So I literally got myself the tools, got the brushes and the paint. There were 5 bungalows, beautiful place, little like kind of village thing, and I was holding the yoga retreats there. And in the meantime, everybody who were coming for yoga retreats, they were asking me to offer them the tattooing. I cannot use the word sakyant in this moment. However, in fact, it was always sakyant because every symbol is a yant, right? And sak means tattooing. So while I had an income from the resort, I felt called to, you know, people want to reciprocate, people want to share and support me, and they offer me money for the work, and I say, I'm glad to receive, but I'm not in need of that, and people want to reciprocate. So I asked my friend Ajahn Ord, and I've asked him if he knows a temple which I could donate these funds that people are giving me, and he said, I will think about it, I will find it for you. And so in a few weeks he called me all excited and he said, you need to meet me, let's go. So we went, and we sat with Prajan Toy, and I was very excited because I know who this is. He's a great master of Sakyan, old master of Sakyan monk, and he was asking me all sorts of questions about how I eat, what do I eat, when do I wake up, how do I meditate, about my spiritual journey, about my beliefs, about first and foremost about the tattoos that I make, about the yants that I was making, which weren't looking like this, like what we do right now, yeah. But it was intentional, meaningful, symbolic, and therefore there were yants. And I was like, wow, okay. I thought this is where we're gonna be bringing the offering, and so in a few weeks he actually invited me to tattoo, and he was leading the ceremonies, and he was showing me and teaching me how to do it, and I become a disciple and further a successor in this, and this is why I have a great respect and a great honor to that practice. And I coming a little bit further ahead, I haven't had anybody who I can say yet that could represent that lineage too. So I've had a couple of attempts of having disciple or apprentice in a more common way in this sense, but interesting enough, our mutual friend Ryan, we were talking about this recently, and he said, because it is not the tattooing and the sakyan is just one of that offerings that we hold in our many arms. This is one of the form of expression of that life that I lead. People want to tattoo and learn how to do this. Teach me the language, teach me the yants. But it's not that. It is the lifestyle, the purity, the deconditioning is what is important. In fact, a lot of people who I work with, they don't even get tattooed, but they just there for the guidance, for support. Some people are just obtaining the artworks that would create this symbolic connection to their intention, the reminders yet again, right? And so I've started doing that. And of course, when I was invited, it is quite an experience that most of the people would say, you are burning everything to the ground again, and you're saying yes to something that people would never say yes. Most of the people say no to this out of fear, out of attachments and such. And I said yes, and I started doing this. And
For how long did you train under your master in Thailand?
overall, altogether, about 3 years. Yeah. And
And again, I think it's important. You've said this, and I want to reiterate it. It is so much more than just learning the art of the actual the actual tattooing. It is the way you live and throughout the entire day. I mean, it's the energy you bring and it's how you carry it. I mean, this is so much more than just being a tattoo artist. You've said it. I want to reiterate it. Just having experienced it myself, it's an embodiment.
yeah.
One of the things that I love about it is, for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, we both have a red string that's tied around our wrists.
That's it.
Yeah, there we go. And one of the things that I love about this particular tattoo and through the ceremonial process is, when we finished is, the string represents that it's like, okay, you want to call these things in, you want to call this in. It takes, if I want to go somewhere or be someone that I'm not today, it requires that I make changes in my life, many times letting go of certain things, certain behaviors, certain, whatever happens to be. And so just because I have, and this is obvious, just because I have this tattooed on me doesn't mean, oh my gosh, this is all going to happen. It's a visual representation of something that is possible for me. But in order to call this in, it requires that I make changes, in some case, radical changes in my life in order to embody it. And what I love about this is that represents that, it takes, your invitation was to wear this at a minimum for 66 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And which, again, studies in many religions and philosophical state that it takes 66 days to fully embody a new habit.
And funny enough, in psychology, it's the frame, it's the gap between 2 to 3 months that humans are forming habits. This is a very interesting thing that ancient Eastern philosophies are suggesting, that 66 days is the time for the sacred body to be recovered and regenerated, right? Or take on some new habits, per se. Yeah, you're right. And I'm really grateful for you for bringing this to attention. This is a very important thing, because a lot of people are coming to me. Not a lot of people. Thankfully, I'm really blessed with my community. And some people are coming still thinking that they're just going to get something and this will solve all their problems on its own and they don't have to do nothing. Look, the energy that is involved is actually... it's incredible, absolutely. The transformations that are starting to happen in around you are incredible. However, you are the one who's supposed to step into this and choose to step into this every single day. If you're sensitive enough and aware enough, you will be seeing the symbols, the signs, the guidance, the resources that are there to support you and lead you to your transformation that you desire. But as my Guruji Acharya Yogesh always taught, you must prove the universe that this is your intention and you must step toward it. The yants will support, will help to attract what is needed, whether it's protection, success, abundance, love, whatnot. Right? There's infinite possibilities, but you're supposed to get up and go. And
so one of the things, you said at the very beginning, and I've talked about this, and it's in my opinion, it's an overly used word today. It's manifesting. So I'm going to manifest this. I'm going to manifest that. And, and literally in the last few months, I'm like, you've got all these people, and I'll put in quotations, gurus, that think, oh, you just think it, it'll happen. If you just think it, you happen. And to me, embodiment, or in order to manifest something into my life, I have to start with being that. It's about being something. So for example, if I want to call a soulmate into my life, and I want to have, and she needs to check, all these different boxes. Well, if there is someone that comes into my life that checks all those boxes and I don't check those same boxes, then is that woman going to want to be with me? Absolutely not. So it's like, if you want something in your life, you have to be that something. I mean, so much of manifestation is about being, it's about doing. Many times, you even said this at the very beginning, talking about your journey, about you all of a sudden started to have awareness. So awareness is the first step, right? Where you start to get into this more conscious state of being. But once you're aware or actually know, frankly, it doesn't do anything unless you actually then create a new action plan and you back it with action as far as how to embody that into your life. That's exactly one of the things I love about this. I'm like, in the work that you do, what this particular tattoo represents to me is it's like, okay, I want these things and I'm not going to settle and I'm going after them. But in order to actually have that, which I truly believe I will hit, will require a new state of being. It will require me to show up in a different light.
Yeah.
It will require me to let go of what's actually holding me from getting there.
Absolutely.
So again, manifestation really truly is about being that and taking steps forward towards it. People sometimes get too caught up in like, which seems obvious, but so many people get lost, especially in the spiritual community. It's like, well, you still have to do the work.
Absolutely. Just like everything else. And you are absolutely right. It's just, you have such passion and strength to this word. But I hope that, let's say there would be some delicate beings watching that, who just needs, I would wish for them to understand that as simple as is, the universe will take care and provide, but you are the one who need to take steps. It's funny enough, in my early stages of teaching philosophy and Dhamma, right, spirituality, I was giving this interesting parallel between how we interact with that universe and what is that manifestation and how it works. So funny enough, our relationship with that universe, with a higher source that we would request of something in this form of manifestation of desire, it is like the dog and its owner. There are many different owners. Some is blind, some is deaf, some is, I don't know, some whatever, right? So the dog needs to find the way to communicate with that God, right? The dog is smart. It doesn't have to run around the forest and chasing bird for 5 days or whatever, right? The dog needs to find the way to communicate with God, which is manifested in its owner, basically, for the dog. So the dog is asking. The dog is making steps. The dog can start whining in the middle of the room, manifesting without doing anything, right? Just, oh. And the owner, some of the owners can roll the newspaper and just say, stop whining, right? And just hit it on the nose, So the dog needs to go to the bowl if it wants to eat or drink, and whine right there, or shake it, or whatever it is. Some dogs I saw, there's funny videos where the dog is taking the ball and started throwing the ball, the metal. It's funny, but that is the language of communication with God, which is the owner for the dog. The dog is asking. The dog did something. Scratch the door. The door is open. The dog needs to go into the door. So is us. Yeah, the dog can find the way to get that food out of the, cupboard, or find a way out on its own. But the dog is choosing often to request that. And when the dog requests, this is a manifestation. To request properly, this is a proper manifestation, like this, for example, that we are requesting, asking for, right? With symbols, with yantras, with prayers, with practices. We know what we want and we request. But then when the food is there, is offered, the resource is offered, we need to go and get it. If the dog wants to go potty, right? It needs to go out of the open door, right? It doesn't mean that the door will be open and the dog can do it anywhere, right? This is the manifestation and how it properly works. The dog is smart. The dog found itself a provider who the dog can request, and the food is literally falling off of the sky into its bowl, So you're absolutely right. It's a beautiful collaboration, co-creation when we know how properly manifest. We do it with yantras, we do it with symbols. We can properly manifest what we want, but you still is the one who need to go and take it, who need to go and step in and show up, who need to integrate, who need to do the practice, who need to follow the journey, who need to face your fears. And there will be the gratification, right? And this is, you're absolutely right. And then there are all these things that you are teaching, my brother. The discipline. You have a goal, you want it, you need to have awareness, then to have a discipline, to get up, to show up, to do this. And you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded.
Yeah, and I think you said, and I want to just, compliment kind of what you said. Again, in the spirit, especially with men, right? This alpha, you go, 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 go. And it's like, you can't show weakness. You can't, and the reality is like, we're also human, and it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be struggling. It's okay to feel like you're not enough. I mean, these feelings are normal. They're valid. They're valid. We all experience them. And what I love that you said too, and that's been my own experience, is it's like, again, you don't need to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. It's okay to kind of work your way up. And it's okay if sometimes like you're in flow and then all of a sudden you're not. You're okay in flow. And I truly believe, call it the universe, our creator, God, a higher power, if you will, when we're putting, you said this earlier, as long as we're making steps towards where we want to go and we're making progress, even when it feels like we're not, there is this universal love, this universal support, this safety net, if you will, that's there to catch us, to hold us sometimes when we just need to be held, and to help empower us to help get through that particular challenging time, that we may or may not be facing. So again, it's just, it's effort, it's intentional effort and moving forward. And yes, you can get there quicker by just going faster, but then also for most of us, like, facing our fears and doing all that, it can feel very, very overwhelming and we can get stuck, but just realize we've got, I believe that our creator, God, wants us to have it all. And part of our learning here is to face those challenges, and the challenges are what actually, builds us and molds us to become better people. But again, I just want to reiterate what you said. It's the baby steps. And that's okay. Like, and also to get in a space we're not comparing ourselves to everybody, because everybody's on their own journey. Everybody has their unique pathway. Absolutely. And just embrace, the own individual, for those of you listening, like your own individual journey, because it's yours and yours alone. It's uniquely yours.
You're absolutely right. And I absolutely agree with you. And I do not believe in things like failure. And I used to believe in things like failure. And this was my perfectionist that was on my way. When I was able to overcome, I realized that you either learn or you get there, or you learn again, and then you still will get there if you want.
Failures, they're gifts. They're gifts.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fear, every quote unquote negative emotion, or a better word, unpleasant emotion that we don't want to feel, are actually anything that is out of our comfort zone, right? It's a
this
gift.
is where the growth is happening.
It is. Growth doesn't happen otherwise.
Absolutely.
And also just a reminder for all of us, especially when we're facing a dark time or a dark season, is everything is temporary. Even the euphoric, orgasmic, existential, highest level of stuff, it's always temporary.
Yes.
And then as are the dark times. And sometimes in those dark times, they can feel like they're going on forever. But when you accept it, can surrender to what is, you're able to move through things quicker. You're able to move through things, and know that when you get into a hard season or there's a challenge, that it's actually an opportunity, as you said, to grow, to level up. And as you move through that, all of a sudden you're at a completely different level than you were before. And actually that whole unpleasant experience was actually a gift.
Absolutely.
To help.
Absolutely.
So you've seen people from all shapes of life, right?
Absolutely.
In your studio in California.
Yeah.
Has there been a common theme you've seen with people that have come in? As it relates, in your own spiritual practices and having conversations with so many unique and different people.
Yeah.
A lot come to you about searching or seeking for more.
I know exactly what I'm gonna answer to that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I don't even. Yeah.
You don't have to finish the answer. I'm gonna tell you that.
Go take it.
Some of the most common situation that people are facing is lack of self-love and lack of feeling of worthiness, and this is what stands between them and where they want to be, wherever they want to be or not be. Their lack of self-love and feeling of worthiness of it stands between them. Yeah. Like some people, oh no, even worse than that, some people don't even come. Some people don't even allow themselves to go and sit with me because they don't feel that they're worthy of that. They don't feel loving themselves enough to go and allow themselves to experience that what you have experienced. And you know how it is, right? And this is what I'm saying. This is what I know that you and I will resonate on that you do this massive work for people, for men a lot, I know, because it is, the first and important thing is, people are lacking of feeling that they are worthy of it all.
Yeah. And worthiness. I mean, I remember years ago when I first went to therapy, my therapist at the time, I was married at the time, and she looked at me and she goes, "You feel worthy of love?" And I couldn't even answer the question. Couldn't even say yes. And my own journey with that of really fully accepting who I am, and my core belief is that we are all worthy. Period.
Absolutely.
End of story. It is a God-given right. Our worthiness isn't tied to anyone else, any failures, anything that's happened in life. We are inherently worthy. And it's fascinating with the men that I've worked with, that I have worked with and continue to work with. If once they finally kind of get it and they feel vulnerable and comfortable sharing, it doesn't matter how much money they make, for whatever part of their life that they haven't quite got, or they really feel stuck. If it's a function of not feeling worthy of it. And
right.
and it's a common theme. So it doesn't surprise me that you say that, and I feel like, people like you and I are here to help people. Like, no, like that's yours. It's okay to have limiting beliefs and all the different things, but let's get you to a place to where the worthiness component or your own self-worth is never in question.
This is the foundation, isn't it? Yeah, it's the foundation. And this is exactly what I'm saying. People need guidance, and people need the reflection. People need somebody, actually, frankly, to reflect that to them, to help them to work with it. And this is one of the important aspects of yans. For example, I do a lot of yans that are related to that heart-opening experience, which is heart-opening experiences is love, acceptance, compassion. And compassion, first and foremost, is for yourself. And compassion for yourself is love of yourself and understanding of your worthiness of love or happiness. Whatever it is that makes you happy. Whatever it is that makes you happy. People all, any kind, any sort, everybody worthy of happiness and love. And that's period. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, and I found in my own life and in the season I'm in today, by completely removing that, and the fact that I'm not worthy of something has released. I mean, it's just opened up so much more space, right? It's not a function of worthiness. I'm just not ready, or I need to learn this, or I'm actually doing certain things that aren't leading me to where I need to go. But no matter what it happens to be, I'm not in a season or a space of actually questioning that I'm not worthy of it. And that is powerful. And, in fact, it was one of the original intentions that I had with mine was around, kind of worthiness. And again, fascinating that, here a year, 18 months later when I first got it, it's like, I don't question that. Yet that was one of my key intentions,
So there you go.
Yeah.
This is the definition of the work that have been put, the effort that have been put, and the magic that has happened as a result of your co-creation with that universe. Right?
How in your
Fate.
Your own life experiences,
your work
and again in the conversations in having interacted with so many people from so many different backgrounds. Again, back on the topic of worthiness, what is one or two steps, or what is someone that doesn't feel worthy of whatever maybe completely or of having a particular thing in life, what are some practical things that they can do?
Well, I want to say that yet again, just as anything else, it is step by step. We need to gain the awareness. We need to be aware of our internal conversation with ourselves. We need to learn how to apologize to ourselves. We need to see if we are harsh with ourselves in conversations, if we are too hard on ourselves, if we are judgmental to ourselves. Yeah, and we need to fix and clean up our inner space to begin with, right? From this toxic interactions with
So how we talk
ourselves.
to ourselves.
Right, how we talk to ourselves. And then from there, you can also start adding, a very loving and kind words, supportive words, telling yourself, I love you. How many times have I asked people who I've blessed to sit with, do you love yourself? And that question have made them so uncomfortable. That question, because they couldn't answer. I have asked them, can you tell me 10 things that you don't like about yourself, that you maybe hate about yourself? And they just jumped in this. I had to have them stop. That was 10 already, And then I tried to ask them, tell me 10 things that you love about yourself. And people cannot name it. And this is a very important thing to change. You need to journal. You need to sit. You need to pay attention to yourself. You need to reprogram your internal conversations to that which is loving, kind, supportive to yourself. It is step by step. If it's not enough for you to just say, believe it, you are worthy, then you need to slowly and surely, very specifically address. And even if you said something to yourself in the morning and you only realize that in the evening, apologize to yourself. Tell yourself some loving words. Do some rituals to yourself to show love to yourself. It's all step by step. It's very hard for most of the people to switch like this one day.
Well, and you said the word reprogram. So this is actually the core of what I do in my coaching with men is help them rewrite the story.
Beautiful.
Because ultimately, at the end of the day, any limiting belief, any question of worthiness or whatever happens to be is rooted in a story. It's a story that has been brought upon by our social upbringing, life experience. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Conditioning.
Yet when we look at our brains, if you will, like a computer, we've been telling ourselves a certain story the whole time, and we can actually rewrite
exactly
that
the way
story.
I say it.
Yeah, you could rewrite that story. So part of I help guys draft what's called their personal declaration. So part of my personal declaration that I repeat to myself on the daily basis is that I'm worthy and deserving of anything and everything I want.
Beautiful.
I keep reminding it's an affirmation. So I tell myself that, I embody that, I feel that. And so if I do have moments of not where I kind of dip down into that, I'm able to pull myself really out. And that's an old story. This is the new story.
Beautiful.
And another thing that you said too is like the negative self-talk. I mean, the reality is I don't know anyone that would talk to other people the way we talk to ourselves.
Exactly. And my friend, I often have to have people to pull their picture as a child.
I was just going to share this idea. I was just going to literally say the same thing. I know where you're going with this.
Look at this. Try to tell the things like you call yourself stupid in your head. You call yourself a loser in your head. You call yourself unworthy of love. Tell this to this child, pure being in the picture that you look at. Try. And people burst in tears. And people burst in tears because they cannot and they would never say this. So why do we say this to ourselves? I really had people I've asked him to, or invited or encouraged them to set their own picture as a child on
As a screensaver on the phone.
screensaver on the
Yep.
phone, and that is a very, very transformative experience for them, because you look at yourself and you remember that this is what you are still, even though you are in a mid suit of a big strong man or a beautiful strong big woman, but this is what you are. You are still that. Yes, you have a lot of conditioning, yet you are bigger. You look maybe slightly different, but that's what you are. You deserve love. You deserve care. You deserve to be happy. That's what it is. And you don't deserve absolutely no harsh words, no mean speech. Don't be your own bully. Come on, right? Most of the people I know would never bully anybody. And not only, but would stand for somebody who is being bullied. And this is how we're supposed to
Years
stand.
ago, I did that. I put a picture of me as 10 or 12 on my phone, and had a huge impact, on my life. That what really helped kind of transmute that for me more than anything. I'm the father of 4 sons. As I was in a deep meditation and picturing talking to my son,
Exactly.
the way that I was talking to my son, and I literally broke down into this uncontrollable crying. And I'm just like, I would never, frankly, anyone, not even my worst enemy, would talk this way, let alone to my own son. And then reflecting back to me, it's like, why the hell am I talking to myself this way? I mean, and it was such a beautiful, painful experience, but and then to be able to transmute that. And again, the reprogramming, the conditioning, and reminding myself on the daily basis of who I am, who I am, who I am. Yeah. And I can honestly say, and that's where transformation happens. I mean, I've rewritten many of those stories.
Exactly.
And some of these old limiting beliefs or the ways I used to see myself, I don't see that way anymore. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. What at the core of it matters what we think about ourselves. And if you can get so solid in that, I mean, that's where magic happens.
Yeah. And this is, however, I understand you. I have a son too, and I was thinking, I've talked to people. I was blessed to sit with people who are I have a person who just recently told me this story. His father kicked him out of the house with a walk of shame, with the trash bags, with his clothes when he was 13-year-old, when he found out his son was gay. And I'm sitting, and this gives me chills, and I'm trying to imagine, not gay, but is there anything that would force me to kick my son out of my house or close my heart to my son? I cannot imagine that scenario. Absolutely. So you see, you and I, we're blessed, I believe so, that we have children. And through that perspective, we've learned so much, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but not everybody are. But still that just realization that they're still the same like little girl or little boy that is on the picture. It helped them to see that child, to evoke that unconditional love within them, and this makes wonders. Really, this is a magical actually practice. It's beautiful because this really helps people to tap into that unconditional love. Yeah.
So I mean, my friend, you and I could spend hours and hours sharing all these stuff, and everything we're talking about, and I've been drawn to you for your work, and again, I want to reiterate this and just say it's how you live and move through the world is very inspiring. And
thank you.
It's the intentionality that you put behind it, and you live a life by design, very conscious living, and you've been able to manifest and create a lot of magic and touch literally thousands of lives in the way you move through the world, and how intentional you are. And where can our listener, I mean, I want everyone listening to this, those of the, kind of my community that don't know who you are, where can people find you first and foremost? And second, if someone wanted to actually experience this beautiful Sakyant tattoo ceremony in your studio in California. How does one go about doing that?
Thank you very much for that call. I mean, it's just reach out to me. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your guide. If you feel called for that experience or the transformation or just for the guidance, just reach out. We will find the way.
What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram is Svietliy, Svietliy, just the way it is my name. And you can send me a direct message over there, or just write an email from my website. There's going to be somebody who will help you immediately to and answer all the questions that is needed to be answered. And just don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid, please. I am very welcoming. I am very I meet people where they are. Yeah. I'm as far as can be from arrogancy or from, some people experience, they're like, oh, you have so many followers on Instagram, you must be. I'm so chill. I love people, I love connections. And so please, and some people meet me on the street and they recognize me and they don't come up, and then they just send me a message that I've seen you, and I'm saying, please come up to me, let's hug, let's smile to one another. And so is the way. Just send me a message and we will find the way how to make it happen for you.
Yeah. And having experienced it now a couple times, and I will continue to, create opportunities for me to participate in some more Sakyant ceremonies. I echo what you just said as far as who you are as a man, the beautiful experiences that you create, and more importantly, how you touch people's lives. So thank you, my brother. It's such an honor. Thank you for our listeners, and we'll see you next time on the Burn Up Podcast.
Thank you.